Greetings, 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 greetings. Oh, give an honor to source, to the creator, to the most high for making all this possible. Bro, I know it's not about the snow. Again, it was just literally 7 degrees last night. Are you fucking serious? Snow flurries. How authentic do I care to be today? So I'm being so funny, but let me show you how, like, I don't even like the term bougie or luxury. Luxury, I have a regular pillow, and then I have the inside of a jacket. It's like a material that's so soft. Slow grind, man. Ew, not even grind, because grind, I forgot the etymology of that. It's like something that's not even, like, comes with ease. Gratitude. Slow grind is, I'll be honest with you, slow grind. Stop saying grind. Creating awareness, appreciation, gratitude. Performance. I've been talking about performance a lot. And the reason being is because it's not about showing you every step of the way. It's about appreciating and celebrating every step of the way. Oh my God. This shit cut up in here, bro. So that being said, I say that to say this. I'm not creating this for performance. It's to bring insight, to appreciate and give gratitude to the fact of, I was sitting here laying last night, blow a bed and all, grateful. Again, the weather went from like almost to 70, I believe. And all of a sudden, like this, I have no idea why the weather's like this. But it literally went from 70 to the 20s. And whatever's coming through, blowing through, is beyond my control. Other than that, it immediately brought me to a place of like empathy and compassion because of people who I, riding through the community, walking or traveling through places and knowing that they probably don't have nowhere to live. And if you have been like with me, through these transitions, it asks for a different version. To be grateful, even when you don't know you have a knowingness, but even when you don't have all of the pieces to the puzzle, this is a part of it. Like, there's no fucking shortcuts to this shit. From going from certain experiences to being able to like for real, like being in a shelter, that shelter experience really showed me like how much you have to still make the best out of life, no matter where you are. Like taking back your authority, simple things to where um, where again, I will always encourage, myself, or keep myself encouraged, that to let go of the illusion of like comparing my life to others. Everyone's going through something. To be grateful, to be appreciative. And that I say that because even to run into people who were in the shelter, or probably had to go through an experience where someone that I was walking, creating a video yesterday, and I came across this elder. Well, it's funny because she had her grandson, and he knew who I was because of, again, having seen each other in the shelter. And you know, I paused my content, to speak to them, and he automatically knew who I was. And I can still sense that the grandmother felt some type of shame or guilt around the fact of someone seeing her. But then again, beyond the surface was more so like her like feeling the sense of not like feeling enough, or feeling like she's not in the position that she wants to be. And I get it. That's why I've been talking about like the empathy, and I think it's effective. And then the other one is emotional empathy. I have to research more on it, like the different aspects of that. And I even though I was walking, creating content, I said something, but I can tell that, again, when you're able to recognize and emphasize with people, you can pick up on things that they're not saying, their body language. Because again, he recognized me as a child, and then it showed me like how, again, children don't have judgmental spirits. They're innocent and they're pure, and they don't have as much attachment to things like we do, because of they still haven't experienced as much life as we have, they're still in childhood. So immediately their consciousness or their awareness isn't corrupted or has been tainted like we have, into, let's say, an elder, or, into adulthood. And most of those elders, again, have forgotten about their childhood. So a lot of them are so consumed by careers. A lot of people are consumed by distracting themselves with obtaining things, or trying to make sure that they don't stumble or fall again, or again, this performance thing. Because when I was talking to her, I was like, she was just telling me about her experience of like, and it's wild because I just share this with y'all to show y'all like how like this having an attitude of gratitude like really shows you how to really navigate life. And gratitude is just like a child that, being childlike, that keeping that innocence and imagination like afloat. And so what happened was is that she you can just tell like she hold on, let me see if I can position this phone right. You can just tell like she felt some type of like, I wasn't concerned about trying to judge her or anything, but you can just tell like the little boy was lit up. I gotta make sure that it's not covering the mic. You can tell the little boy was lit up when he seen me, cause he's like, she said like, he said that he saw you, like that's the guy from such and such and whatever, and I was like, yeah, I remember seeing y'all. She was like, yeah, he said that's him. But I can tell that what mission she was on, because she was walking towards someone, and, she, in her her speech, she started talking real fast. And, I can just tell that, just learning from human behavior, human interaction. Like, this is someone who doesn't really want to be heard. She's trying to rush all her words, and I'm listening, just holding space, because that's one thing I've learned how to do for myself. Some people just want someone to listen without judgment, without criticism, and so forth. But the little boy I was just so admired by how kids are just still, which I feel like we've forgotten, within ourselves, and that's why the inner child is so important. He just didn't care at all. It's like they through experiences, kids like still have this unmeasurable joy. They go through emotions and stuff. Because I don't want y'all to believe, and even just believing, but I feel like we forget that we get so caught up in what we're doing, whether it's workload and career and all this other stuff, that you like being so disconnected from that feminine archetype, from what created us all, the emotional resonance from all of that, being so disconnected from that, and what has allowed us to forget about our inner child, is what caused us to disconnect ourselves from the children. Because, one thing I learned, even through the shelter experience, even through experiences with life, now having, like having a child and having children, these kids, they feel through shit too. We're not the only one going through that experience. I saw my daughter like go through so many different mood swings, so many different experiences, and so many different things. And even through that, like, I told myself, like, dang, imagine a child who is trying to, they're not just looking to you, but people don't realize, like, children naturally know how to self-soothe themselves. A lot of us just had to learn how to parent or guardian be guardians for ourselves, self-soothe ourselves through the abandonment issues, through the self-sabotaging behavior patterns, through what developed that, through childhood development. Like, we had to learn to soothe ourselves. That's a big thing that I wanted to share with y'all. It's like having to soothe yourself through the fact of not having a guardian present, or not having that parental guidance or support. That's no difference through, I'm sitting here laying, like, trying to rebuild, reconstruct my life from the ground up, or, when you're replanting, or I like to say now, replanting your life or recreating, and you have to start over. Most people fear that. They fear that. So that conversation with that elder, the little boy, he reminded me to still have this innocence, this non-attachment, but also still have this joy through life. He got on his bike, he was riding back and forth, and as I was listening to her, like, I see her, the inner child, because she was probably like 70 or something, but all she can talk about is like, which I get, which I'll go into details before I get deeper into self-soothing. She was expressing about like what happened, because she was I believe where we were, she was talking about how this used to be her house. It's wild, because she was like, this was my house right here, da 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 da, but this was her neighbor. And I feel like she hasn't processed the fact or accepted that, what really has happened. And that's where the unresolved emotions, unresolved traumas, or whether it's traumatic or not, whether it was a traumatic experience, which I'm sure it was, she was going into detail about like how, about the landlord, and, about, what else? About how many lenders or something that, the landlord went through, or something like that. And, basically a whole lot of things that pretty much was exposing so much of like the corruption, or even just, the abuse of power, to where certain things where, she said that the landlord wasn't going to evict them. It's just, they just had to leave. So she didn't, being, I guess, that was elders, because she had a husband as well. He wasn't in the best health. I noticed that, like, at the shelter. And her granddaughter is probably like early 20s, and she had 2 kids. They were like toddlers. And, you know, just that experience alone, having to see a grandmother with her husband, you know, all these different things. And like I said before, generations before, you know, people have had the luxury of like having all these things, but then life hits them. And a lot of them aren't prepared mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You know, they don't see it as divine intervention. Some people can see it as punishment. Some people can even question the higher up, or, you know, whatever they subscribe to. They'll question it. They'll be like, oh man, like, why is this happening to me? And then they'll run right back to what's familiar, because even when the little boy was just walking, you know, and before he got on his bike, you know, as we were talking, she was still going into the fact of what happened to her. So you can tell that. So, you know, it's like the little girl in her that wanted to express to someone like what has happened, what is happening, and so forth. But it's the, you know, the movement and stuff was just telling me like how uncomfortable she was with it, which is okay. We coming from generations who are now being faced with the uncomfortability that failure, or even just evolution, you know, things that are shifting. It's okay. It's okay to go through that. Things that force people to come together, because they've been so divided or been so focused on creating and building that they forgot about who they were. Again, the feminine archetype, when you're talking about emotional empathy, you can emphasize with someone, you know, the depths of their emotion, but without losing your own self. And what that is that, again, you have had generations who haven't had these core values where they learn to emphasize. So now the empathy that they're looking for, seeking, they're looking for it in people who don't have it. And then you're talking about a generation or even a world where, again, the core values of the collective is the empathy. So now people are just for self, and they don't emphasize with nobody. They don't care about the children. They don't care about the elders. Even that shift of what is, you know, during the so-called pandemic or pandemic, whatever the fuck you want to call it, during that shift, which a lot of us knew that was something spiritual, you know, a new powers on the, on the horizon. But for them, you know, it was something that on a surface level, a lot of people could see as something terrifying, something scarcity, because they knew that their business, they knew that their families, they knew a lot of people who were affected by that, where, again, a lot of these things were also to show people a shift in power, also a shift in the fact of, you know, families that were affected by that. You know, that was a spiritual thing and also a physical thing for people to learn to emphasize, to also realize that things were changing and was never going back to the same. And the reason that is like when I saw that elder talking about the things that, you know, she told me how if you don't know, like, because sheltering or whatever it is, I don't know, you know, it's different in other places. You can be what they call exited due to whatever rules or guidelines and so forth. You know, she said that her granddaughter had to take her children to the hospital or, you know, do something, and it was like an emergency. But, you know, there's rules to where, how is it? You have to something to where, like, you could possibly be exited if you don't like inform them, you know, staff or whomever, or if you're not there for 24 hours, then that could lead to a possible exit. And so what that does is that's what end up happening. And it's almost like you can feel the shame, or like, the not wanting to accept. And it's not to say she hasn't accepted. It's just like a grieving process for a lot of people, because they go from having a home, you having elders who have had, places, they live places for 25, 50, most of their lives. And unexpected events, or something unexpectedly happens, whether it's health, whether it's something related to what I call divine intervention, or those who are in tune see it as divine intervention, to bring people closer either to themselves, to remove certain blockages in the chakras, to bring people more awareness to who they are, a deeper understanding and overstanding of what some may call the human experience, or just life, whatever journey and so forth. Again, people just word it differently in whether religious or whatever belief system. All I'm saying is I'm glad I got to a place where I had to, still be authentic and walk in integrity, and not even just say, I was expressing to her, like, especially with the little boy being there. And even though kids don't look like you, have the same skin color, and all, that shit doesn't matter to source, because I'm looking at the little boy and all he can do is smile. All he do is smile. And just he was riding a bike back and forth when she was telling me what was going on. And I realized, like, I was mirroring back to her, almost like this father to daughter, even though she was an elder energy, to where she felt safe to express those things. And then I also held space for myself, because of having to self-soothe myself, emphasize with myself, do the inner work to love on myself, to, go through experiences to where I too had to go through something similar again, where, myself and, the family, and so, my family were, had to go through an experience similarly, because of certain guidelines or certain things that, are in place, that again is set up to keep people looping, especially people who are perceived like on the lower class, or poverty stricken, or whatever it is, because people just assume that, from other walks in life, because of how the media has been portrayed, that just darker people, indigenous people go through this. No, there are people who are wealthy, who have had money, that are darker, from other countries and other places. There are also people, I do not know that number. So there are also other people who